Spider-Man. Look at my face. Can you tell I liked this movie? Go ahead, hit my music. Spider-Man Homecoming, starring Tom Holland. I think the best Peter Parker so far. I can't say the best Spider-Man because it's probably just like, a stunt double in the suit doing that flipping and jumping and so forth. He may be doing some of it, but I think it's not him all the time. Best Peter Parker so far. Michael Keaton is deadly in his movie. He's got those arched eyebrows, and I'm watching it and I'm saying to myself, you know what? He would kill you, I think. He might, if he wasn't a movie star, he might be like a serial killer. He's a pretty good villain. I dig that. Matter of fact, it brings me back to a movie called Pacific Heights that he did where he was villainous. And it made you, watching him on screen, it made you think, yeah, he'd kill somebody. That's a villain to me. And he was a great villain. Robert Downey Jr. essentially is playing Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Does a great job. Enough said about that. He's always good as Iron Man. When they first announced that it was going to be him playing Iron Man, I was like, well, that's going to suck. But it didn't. Surprisingly, that was a great surprise. He was good at that. Jacob Batalon is in it. A lot of people in this movie. I gotta mention this kid because he's a scene stealer. Every scene that he's in, he steals. It's his scene. He's hilarious. He's just a funny guy, And just watch the movie, you'll see. He's a funny guy. The story is essentially directly after the events of Captain America Civil War. So what happens is Spider-Man wants a little bit more of that big time, big game action, but he's not getting it. He's just hanging out in his neighborhood. He doesn't even have a driver's license or whatever, so he can't leave too far from the neighborhood. So he's kind of hanging out there. So Iron Man gives him advice that he should just be a neighborhood Spider-Man. In fact, a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, like the comic book. So he does. He ends up stopping a crime where he realizes that some of that Chitauri weapon is still out there, weaponry. And some people are taking it and morphing it and changing it into other things, or just using the stuff or whatever, but they're using that space technology to make weapons. This is a good way to introduce other villains, with superpowers or with super weaponry. They could just say, there's certain people who are so smart that they can invent whatever. But instead they're saying, you know what, they're kind of Jimmy rigging space stuff. And that kind of makes more sense. I kind of liked it the other way, but this makes more sense in a practical sense. So, yeah. To me, it was a setup for more. Also, there's a lot of characters. If you read the comics, there's a lot of characters that are in here that you would look at and go, oh, hey, that's that dude that's going to become pal. Or there's that girl that's going to date him. There's a lot of people and not a lot of name dropping that's going on, So it's good in that sense, because I'm like, oh man, wow, they're showing such and such. Also, I think that there's going to be an introduction of the Sinister Six. And the Sinister Six is basically Spider-Man's. Spider-Man's got a great rogue gallery. Got a bunch of villains he fights, and the Sinister Six are always going to be in his top 5, I think, maybe even a top 3. And in this movie, they're showing the Vulture, who is Michael Keaton. I think in the movie they just call him the flying monster guy, but he is in fact the Vulture. And then they've got the Shocker. Actually, they had a couple of Shockers, but they got the Shocker in this movie. And then they've got a couple other people. They've got the Tinkerer is in this movie. He's a weapons guy. He makes weapons and all this kinds of great cool stuff. They hint that perhaps the Scorpion could be coming because he's in the movie. He doesn't have like his superpowers and everything yet, but one of the people they mentioned, you're like, oh, that's the Scorpion. And also, they've got a guy called the Hobgoblin that's in the movie. Now, the Hobgoblin would be like, the way they portray it in the movie, it's like if you saw the TV show Gotham, and you're like, okay, well, that's Bruce Wayne. We know he's going to be Batman. You just know it because you know the mythology of Batman, mythology of Bruce Wayne, the mythology of Gotham. You know what's going to happen. They're just showing you from the beginning. That was the Hobgoblin. For comic book fans, there's a character in there that you're looking at and you're like, oh, wow, he's going to be a major villain in the future. And he's going to be a pretty big Richard. Richard has an abbreviation, 4 letters, starts with a D. He's going to be a huge Richard in Spider-Man's world, and it's going to suck for him. But they show all of these things. Now, something that I think that I would like to see is Kraven the Hunter. Now, Kraven the Hunter is a Russian dude that pretty much gets these roots that give him similar powers to like the Black Panther. They're African type things, sort of like the Black Panther's power to make him bigger, stronger, faster, tougher. And he hunts everything with guns, knives, with African weapons. He can use an assortment of weapons. He has an assortment of martial arts and African and I guess Russian style fighting techniques. He's a great combatant, right? Pretty much imagine a combination of Tarzan and Rambo with a touch of Bruce Lee and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah. Rambo, Bruce Lee, Tarzan, and Arnold Schwarzenegger balled up into one dude. Pow! You've got Kraven the Hunter. I think somebody that could play him is the guy from what's that movie? Boyka, the Boyka guy. Can't remember his name. I'll put it on the screen right here. But he would make a great Kraven the Hunter, I think. Now, he was in another movie. He was in the Doctor Strange movie and everything, but they could say this is his twin, or they could just like not acknowledge the fact that he was in another movie, or they could say, he tried that whole magical thing, it didn't work out, so he decided to go back to his roots. Whatever, they could use whatever story they wanted. But Kraven's the kind of guy that you could build upon and then put in the movie. So I think that would be a great villain. Not the next movie, because the next movie is probably going to be some of the Sinister Six, or maybe the forming of the Sinister Six, or maybe even Venom or something like that. But they're clearly going to do more than one of these, because this one was huge. So he should be in there somewhere. But I'm going to give this movie 9 bags of popcorn. So tell me, what was your favorite superhero movie? What was your favorite Spider-Man moment? Let's talk about it in the comments. And as always, if you dig this video, if you dig the content, right over here in the corner, click my name and subscribe, and then like.